Hi all, I'm Morgan Rhodes. I've been working at Puppet for the past 4.5 years. I started out on the modules team, and I've spent the past 3 years working on the release engineering team, where I'm primarily focused on the tooling and automation for building and shipping our commercial and open source software. Today, I'm here to talk to you about the work we're doing to deliver the Puppet Server Stack and Puppet Enterprise as containers. Moving to containers helps to solve a number of problems for us. With our current packaging, it takes some work to get a complete server stack up and running, and you're limited in what platforms you can run on. Upgrades can also be a challenge and can be harder to recover from if something goes wrong. With containers, it's much easier to get your server stack up and running. You're also able to run these containers on any platform you want, so long as you have a working Docker and Docker Compose. Windows needs a few extra steps to get the host ready, but you can build and run the server containers on a Windows server. Containerization also makes upgrades and rollbacks much easier. You just need to do a Docker Compose pull and a Docker Compose up, and everything will be upgraded with all the necessary data preserved. Right now, we only have support for this for the open source platform, but we're actively working on getting support for containers and this simplified workflow available with Puppet Enterprise. We'll also be working to optimize our containers, they're fairly large right now, and to get our services running in a way that is more container native. And now, the demo. I want to show you how easy it is to get a full Puppet server stack up and running, including Puppet Server, PuppetDB, and PostgreSQL. This host is a CentOS VM I have set up with Docker and Docker Compose installed, but the same thing will work with macOS and Windows 2. All I need to do is clone down the Pupperware repo and then run Docker Compose up. As a note, you'll need to pass in the DNS alt names, environment variable set to a list of at least Puppet, and the host name you're running on to make sure networking works. So while this gets set up, let's get our Puppet agent ready. I have the Puppet agent installed on this VM already, so all I need to do is set the Puppet server config, and then we'll be up and running. I'm also going to copy in some modules and a manifest to give my agent running a basic web server. And this whole thing takes about 45 seconds to get set up, so I'm going to speed it up a little while we wait for PuppetDB to finish. Looks like PuppetDB is up and running, so let's try running our agent here and wait for our web server to get configured. And that's it. We have a working Puppet infrastructure now. I'm going to cut ahead a little now and wait for the Puppet run to finish up. Okay, our agent run has finished, and we now have a web server up and running. In addition to the setup being much easier than with traditional files, there's also the ability to quickly and easily test out upgrades. For this example, I'm going to pull in some of the nightly container builds for the Platform 6 release of Puppet Server and PuppetDB. Running Docker Compose up, pointing at this new Compose file, will restart the infrastructure with all the same data we were using in the earlier setup, but with a newer version of Puppet. And as we can see here, our Puppet server is in fact now running a nightly snapshot build. I'm going to give this a little bit to get started up, and then we can start running our agent. So it looks like everything has started up, so let's try running our agent against this new Puppet master. Oh, looks like the server has crashed, and it is a Java out-of-memory error. So must need something different in our configs here. So let's edit the Docker Compose file and set a maximum memory for the Puppet server to see if that will help. Let's just set that to 2 gig. And again, just running Docker Compose up, pointing at that file. We'll restart the necessary containers, and we'll be back up and running again. And now that PuppetDB is up and running, let's try running our agent again. We would expect to see it run successfully with no changes. Yep, everything ran successfully. Now, since this is a nightly build, we don't want to stay here, so let's roll back to the compose file with our released versions of the software. For that, we just need to run a Docker compose up, and then we'll be back to the released versions. And as you can see now, our Puppet server is back to running version 5.3.5. To find out more about our work with containers, please check out our Pupperware repo for the Docker Compose configuration, the Puppet server and PuppetDB repos to find info on how these containers are built, and feel free to reach out on Slack. All the links are available at pup.pt/2018-docker-demo. Thank you.